Now let's segue to something that was not great by design. But I still enjoyed it, and I still will follow for a couple more episodes to see where it goes, which is I'm Standing on a Million Lives.
Oh, I thought you were about to say. I was like, wait.
No,
I thought you.
No.
Okay.
Absolutely. Okay. Yeah. So I watched the first episode of 100 Man no Inochi no Ue ni Ore wa Tatuiru, which is I'm Standing on a Million Lives, and that's the only way I'm going to refer to it from now on, because it's a long ass name. What the fuck is up with these long ass names?
They gotta stand out somehow.
They get longer and longer every season. So
isekais.
First thing I wasn't sure about, even though I'd read the synopsis, was whether or not this was an isekai death game, just a death game, or some like weird fantasy something. So the answer to that question is it's all the above. So the structure of the isekai component is that the selected characters are pulled into this fantasy world that is game-like. So it's trapped in a game. I mean, as far as we can tell from the little exposition that's there, the characters seemingly cannot die until we find out that in fact, if it's only if the party dies and everybody dies. So it's a death game. Their abilities are trash. So we find out very early that our all of our heroes suck ass. They can't do anything. They struggle to like kill one goblin, and they spend most of their time getting murdered brutally or running away. But the brutality of the murder is like dialed back because there's this game element where like you could get your head chopped off, and instead of like blood spurting everywhere, it has sort of like a gamey pixelation effect, but you are still experiencing getting getting ripped apart. It just doesn't hurt. So it's psychologically tormenting, but it's not like physically damaging, which allows us to then see one of the main girls that we get introduced to in the first 10 minutes get literally ripped in half and eaten. But and everyone is horrified, but at least that we've established with all the characters that as long as they don't die, or as long as they don't have the whole party die, she'll come back. And then she doesn't come back, and then they're like, yeah, I guess if you have a body part eaten, you don't get that body part back. So now I'm just like, holy shit, what the fuck is going on? And we don't really get too much further than some of those revelations in the first episode. The thing I will say about it is, number one, there's humor in here. I don't quite get it. It seems like some of that humor is derived from Japanese competition game shows. So it's a little more of a cultural in-joke that I'm not totally familiar with. That's where a lot of the comedy, such as it is, comes from, because the way the game rules and the game master is presented, it's in that context. If you ever see a screenshot of a weird blue CGI statue of a naked man with half a head, that's like the GM. And at some point randomly in the episode, guy's like, oh yeah, also they ask who he is or who is running this game. He's like, I come from the far future. So it's like super strange. Don't know what's going on there. The main character is also a piece of shit, which I like.
What? You like that?
He's not your typical, again, anime protagonist guy, even though he's admittedly like all he cares about in his regular life is playing video games and not going outside. So that would tell you that he's a neat, not really, at least that's not so far how they've described it. It's more like a person who is disassociated from most of society, doesn't give a fuck about anything. And we see that come out multiple times in the first episode, where given the opportunity to like be a teammate or be a team player, he just is straight up rude and tells the other bitches to kick rocks. Even at the detriment of both good strategy and potentially, character growth, which I like, because if he is going to grow to be a better person and not like a weird sadist like we were previewed in the first minute or two of the episode, then you need to start at a place where, in fact, he is not sympathetic at all. And so that then you can contextualize the growth that comes later. So I actually like the fact that he's a shitbag, and one whose the origins of his shitbaggery are more cultural, because it seems like also there's a side comment in the show about, again, like modernity separating people, because he constantly comments on the fact that he lives in Tokyo, but he hates the city. He hates how like kind of like empty and disconnected everything is. The only thing that he really gets any enjoyment out of is sitting in his apartment by himself playing video games, and that's it, because like everything else sucks and everyone in the city sucks. So that's like, you could go either way with that. Like you could have a character like that turn into an absolute piece of garbage,
yes,
and sort of not even be an anti-hero, just be a heel the whole fucking time. Or you could use it as a basis to teach someone something about, I hate to say it, but like friendship and togetherness in a more serious way than what you usually get in your anime. Like when someone's like the Naruto, lone wolf is like, I don't like anyone. I'm not gonna have any friends. I just have to have a moment where I'm finally introduced to the fact that if I can rely on other people, it's not so bad. Like that shit sucks. This feels a little more extreme, so that might give it some room to like be a more adult about it. But he definitely is not a cool person, which I count in the show's favor. So I enjoyed the first episode. It was a little jarring. I still don't quite know what's going on. I don't have my footing together on like what are the stakes of this world. There's also the little weird thing where the game starts, and every time they clear a stage, they have to add a person to the game, which at first is like, oh, that's cool. It's a cool way to like get more characters in once we've met our initial 3. But there's also a problem, which is this is a death game. So anyone you're explicitly adding, and they all seem to be like, you have to make friends with this person in real life and then bring them in. It's kind of actually a shitty thing to do, to bring them into this.
Yeah.
Even though it's wish fulfillment in a sense, because, whatever. So it's odd. It's an odd show, but it doesn't suck. And it looks pretty good. It's not the best animated thing ever, but it doesn't look like garbage. So that was my takeaway for that episode.